One of the ways to get information into our long-term memory is to say something repetitively. Other people try to remember a piece of information by thinking of what you're trying to remember means and how it fits in the context around it. For example, if you're taking a test and completely blank on what the hypothalamus does, you can figure out what the function is by figuring what the other parts of the brain does and what the hypothalamus connects with. When you attach more cues with a piece of information, it makes the retrieval process 10 times easier. So when you're studying for your next psych test, make sure that you place the subject with a picture, word, or a phrase. The crazy part is that we are not always going to be aware of the cues that are being associated. Sometimes the cues do not even have to be associated with the related concepts. For example, if you're studying for your psych final and you're chewing mint-flavored gum and reviewing the parts of the brain, you may connect the mint flavor with the function of the thalamus or the amygdala. The connection between surroundings and remembered information is called encoding specificity.
Recall is the mental process of the retrieval of information from the past. It is typically more difficult than recognition, and it has 3 types. The 3 types are free recall, cued recall, and serial recall. An example of recall in general is if you are filling out an application form for college and you have to retrieve information you learned in the past about yourself with either none or very few social cues. This all involves having to think back, and the question usually is the cue for the retrieval of the answer. Now back to the 3 types of recall. Free recall is the type of recall where one is able to retrieve information or memories in any order of events they want. Cued recall is the retrieval of memory with help of cues, and a cue is presented that relates to whatever is trying to be retrieved. And lastly, serial recall. Serial recall requires the recollection of something in a specific order or in the way they were originally presented. Many times, recall does not work and, in fact, fails. An instance where recall is a failure is when one is struggling to remember something or struggling to find an answer to the presented question, but they cannot remember at all. And the majority of the time, people, when they are failing recall, they say it is on the tip of my tongue. And I bet the majority of you have all dealt with that because it feels like the answer is legitimately on the tip of your tongue, but really you cannot retrieve it. How do you overcome the tip of your tongue? The most popular instance where people rid of whatever is on the tip of your tongue is to completely stop thinking about it, and forgetting about it is giving the brain a chance to really dig deep into retrieving the memory or whatever one is trying to remember. And in fact, this actually increases the chance of remembering what was on the tip of your tongue. But what is difficult about this is once you remember it, usually further into the conversation, you have already switched topics, so all the hard work of retrieving the memory is usually never said. An effect of recall is the serial position effect. An example of the serial position effect is when one is trying to remember a song. They tend to remember the first few words or the last few words, causing a prejudice towards the middle words of the song. So remembering the first few words is the primacy effect, and this is the aspect where the words in the beginning of the song are remembered more than those in the middle of the song because it was what was first heard, so it was what first went into your brain about the song in general. And then the second effect is the recency effect, and this is the aspect where the last words of the song are the words heard most recently, so those are the words that are remembered more likely than the words in the middle of the song, creating an aspect where, in general, the middle parts of songs, poems, or lists in general are more difficult to hear or remember.
Recognition is the ability to match a piece of information or a stimulus to a stored image or fact. Typically, it's easier than recall. This is because the cue is the actual object, sound, word, or etc. that the person wants to detect as familiar. Examples of recognition are multiple choice and true-false tests because all the information is there, and you just have to match the answer to the information already stored in your memory. Although this sounds much easier, sometimes these kinds of tests actually wind up being more difficult because a few answers may jog our memories, confusing us as to what is actually the correct answer. Recognition is accurate, especially for images, and in particular, human faces. A good example of this is a study in which over 2,500 photos were shown to participants. They were shown one photo every 10 seconds. They were then shown pairs of photos where one of the people had already been shown to them. The participants were 85 to 95% accurate in identifying the familiar photos. Now moving on. False positives occur when a person thinks that they have recognized something or someone, but actually does not have that thing or person stored in their memory. One time, I was absolutely sure that I saw my cousin at the movies, so I ran up to her and gave her a huge hug. The girl actually happened to not be my cousin. I think my face was red for about 2 days after the incident of 2011, as we refer to it now. While there are many funny stories like this one, false positives can actually wind up being very harmful. When there was a series of armed robberies in Delaware, word leaked about the perp being a priest. When eyewitnesses were asked to look at a lineup at the police station that included a priest wearing a priest's collar, 7 eyewitnesses identified him as the robber. This horrifying story has a happy ending, and halfway through his trial, the real criminal confessed to the crimes. However, this highlights the way our memories can trick us, and they're not always reliable. It shows that the more information that is given and known after an event can alter what a person remembers about the event, thus affecting the accuracy of their memory of that event. Automatic encoding occurs when long-term memories enter permanent storage. Rather than storing very specific memories, these are the type of memories that are made after unconsciously noticing things like passing time, physical surroundings, and how often something happens. This is made apparent in the example of someone sitting in a busy coffee shop. When they are asked how many people had been in the coffee shop, they wouldn't be able to give an exact number. Instead, they'd say a lot or more than normal. Flashbulb memories are a specific type of automatic encoding in which a specific event that is usually unexpected has strong emotions attached to it. For our parents, this could be 9/11, but given that we were too young to understand what was actually happening, a better example would be when Osama bin Laden was killed.
We hope that you enjoyed learning about cues, recall, and recognition. If you have any additional questions, feel free to tweet us at